Us everybody, welcome to the Gran Torino with me, your host, Quirton Crukta. Got an amazing board, back to the whiteboard here this time. Got a few things need to be breaking down. I was away the weekend, had a lot on, had a lot to do. Conducted an amazing interview which I'll talk about towards the end of the video. But I want to jump into the meat and bones of where we are now. Missed a couple of CBTS 24/7 live stream sit-ins. QAnon was posting over the weekend. So I didn't actually get to hear Jerome Corsi's synopsis just yet, but I have been chasing up and following up on a few. But through other alternative media news information sources, the following timeline is going to relate to back towards the memo still. But the main centre of attention, Carterpage. Carterpage will lead on to one of Lionel Nation's analogies, which will bear evidence as the prosecutions carry forward the fruit of the poisonous tree. It's a judicial kind of expression that should any piece of evidence along the prosecutorial trail, if that initial piece that allowed the search warrants, or in this case the FISO memo, to be actioned, then all preceding warrants or liabilities of people's charged are deemed poisonous, no good, discounted and cast out, because the warrant that they fraudulently arrived at, that in essence nullifies everything preceding after that. So how does this bring us back to Carterpage? Who is Carterpage? I've linked in the description the media source. Thomas Paine and Betty have a wonderful 35-45 minute piece on the following timeline. So I'm going to try and condense it down, because the idea behind American intelligence media is to cross-pollinate, as Thomas says. The more that this information is disseminated amongst different news sources or different YouTube creators or Facebook, Twitter, once the information starts to get out, MSN being the firewall between us and them, you and me, MSM seems to obfuscate. Obviously through Operation Mockingbird, they received their talking points, they received their instructions, and we'll go through that now in a little bit too. Carterpage. Who is Carterpage? He was a Merrill Lynch and oil trader, and he used to travel between Russia and America. Obviously starting out, he was regarded as not a bit of an oddball, but a bit of a buffoon. He was obviously a bit of a trader in some respects, but he couldn't really make the networking engagements or get the step ahead that he needed to do. He came into contact with our man Comey. Comey set him up in an entrapment. Comey set him up in an entrapment snare that tied him to a tenuous link to a Russian. Because of that entrapment that Comey set up and perpetrated, this is how CP was brought into the fold. In essence, creating a federal employee out of Carterpage, because he was used in a link. He passed on microphones in folders that he was giving a theory or a thesis as he was lecturing in some colleges in Russia. They used that as an in to plant in microphones inside the binders, and thereby completing the entrapment. He was a witness in a prosecution which was settled, and some of the Russian perpetrators were jailed. Two of the spies have diplomatic immunity, hence they got away with it. Thomas and Betty go through that in more detail, as they do with various steps in this timeline that I'm trying to break down for you. So Comey entrapped Carterpage. Then Carterpage was used as a corroborating witness to the FISA memo. When the FISA memo was brought up towards the FISA courts, CP, along with George Papadopoulos, some warrants were brought up against Paul Manafort of the Trump campaign. But these were conflating between two separate warrants that were happening in tandem together, but one leading on to the other. One investigation was being hid or snuck under the radar, which is CP's investigation through Comey. I also mentioned here that he was named in an official document as a federal employee witness in the case. Not actually named by choice, but he was referenced. That them court proceedings have since been leaked. Thomas has got them, and he was able to extrapolate the information of what transpired of that. But once Carterpage had been set up in the entrapment by Comey, he then became nuclear. Anybody that he came across, or anybody that communicated with him, anybody that mentioned his name, anybody that typed his name into a computer, into a Google search, all that information was upstreamed via our friends in the NSA. That was all pooled, that was kept together in a storyline. That's how the Donald, number 45, was brought into the fold, even though Carterpage had since been discovered and Donald were never in the same room, had nothing to do. He was listed on a meeting that was to be held where he was volunteering his services to be a connection between the Russia and whatever opposition information that could be achieved, because that's what drew in the American election. That's what they do. They gather oppositional information and they look for supporters and help in establishing their campaign trail. But it was assumed and it was asserted, because he was listed in a list of volunteers towards the Trump campaign, that was the collusion, or that was the toy. Because he was already brought in as a federal employee, that's going to have huge implications for the prosecution to come. But he was used as a go-between meet that would set off a chain of events whereby the Donald Trump campaign communications would all become upstream and caught in with the Ebola virus, as Lionel called him. He became Ebola. Anybody and anything touched him. So once he was even in the presence or mentioned in contact with the Trump campaign, that gave license to the FISA warrant and the deep state cronies to start their investigations. They've already had long-running investigations, 4 or 5 years in some cases, especially against Paul Manafort. Roger Stone and the President Donald Trump are currently in a lawsuit against the DOJ, which will explode in due time. So CP, how is he linked? We've established how CP was linked to Comey. Comey and Mueller, they have their own attachments. These are all up in different videos. Thomas Paine and Lionel Nation and a few other, Destroy the Illusion. I think Jordan mentioned their collaboration. They are childhood friends. They go back way back, and they've more or less been implanted and ensconced in the FBI as disingenuous agents, and have been colluding and running a secret society, as was inferred by the text messages between Strozzi and Page in their 50,000 sex texts, which the FBI have withheld because they're considered and deemed sex testing and not relevant. And as Lionel and many other contributors have said, 50,000 sex texts in a 6-month period. Did he ever get the chance to who knows? Didn't give you any of these yet, but we'll crack on. So Comey and Mueller are tied in together exclusively. Comey was set in place. When we look up here in this timeline section, up here I have 44, Department of Justice, Department of State, the Adjutant General, Security Council seat, the FBI, the CIA, the 702 and the Section 1 powers. Because Carterpage was named and verified by McCabe and Comey on 3 separate occasions, it's like the Declaration of Christ and the Dying of Christ, they signed off that he was a Section 1 Russian agent, and that's what made him nuclear, that's what made him Ebola. It gave them carte blanche powers of investigation to take any bits of information. That's how the Donald again got pulled into that through. And although they had different investigations on, they also had different entrapments. You'll remember the Russian lawyer who was supposed to meet with Donald Trump Jr. That didn't transpire, but that was part of the October surprise in and amongst the secret society's insurance policies, as they were referred to in the texts, which have been seen and which have been held, and which will again come to light. Comey and Mueller are like the defensive block and tackle team. Mueller is still gaining his orders for Comey. Comey was brought in to cover essentially Hillary Clinton, but through their nefarious actions, and because of the memo and because it was signed off, or it was immediately appropriated, Obama was aware of it. So to action these commands that the FISA warrants that did action, Barry signed off on it. His Department of Justice, Loretta Lynch, Susan Rice, they're all implicated. He also had a member on the Senate, the Security Council, that was also an Obama appointee. I'm not sure that chap's name, but he is there. Those 4 alone will be prosecuted in the coming time. The Adjutant General, I again mentioned him when he blocked the Office of Inspector Generals and took away their rules of provision thereby nullifying him, and it took the OIG General Inspector Head to circumvent that through Congress, as we've done in a previous video. So the powers that were abused through the FBI, through the collusion, through the secret society, the 702 was brought up, and the 702 was fraudulently accepted by the FISA warrants, even though the FISA warrants are considered a bit of a rubber stamp. 34,000 applications, only 12 ever denied. 12 out of 34,000 is astronomical. It's a rubber stamp. And as Lionel reports, there's a certain element of trust between the Department of Justice and the FBI, that they both have done their due diligence, so that it speeds up and streamlines the process. But that has been violated through Comey, through the Department of Justice, and there we will see federal judges, as Lionel says, when you see the federal case, when you see the ire of the federal courts, because they now have to produce, they will be held in contempt of court, and they will have to produce their evidence, and that's part of the treasonous chain. So Mueller and Comey, Mueller now is heading up the Russian probe. This brings us down into this timeline. These are the two connections. There's CP, Comey, Mueller. Mueller is still leading up the Russia probe, which is in fact a big nothing burger, big zero, but again is still being perpetrated and is spoken about by the mainstream media. Mainstream news medias we should purport, your usual CNNs, CNBCs, they haven't a clue what's going on, but they're under instructions to purport and accelerate or keep pushing the Russia probe thing. The Russia probe thing, if you go back, is all part of the Solodinsky group, a tactic to accuse your opposition of what you are in fact doing yourself. It's, you know, to obfuscate, this is what you were up to, but we're going to blame that and appropriate it to get the initial narrative out into the mainstream consciousness of people, so that they begin to think that way. It's already a persuasion tactic. You are persuaded because you've read the memo, because the leaks have come through, because all these dossiers and memos are prefabricated, part of the October surprise kit that Comey was using to disseminate the Pissgate stuff that was directed at President Trump, that he'd hired 2 Russian prostitutes to urinate in a bed because of Obama, and Michael and Obama were there, sorry Michelle, were supposedly staying on that bed. It's a big nothing burger. Again, the corroborating evidence that the Christopher Steele connections, the MI6, the GCHQ connections, they all come into play, but that's further down the onion peel. I'm only giving you this top section of the onion peel, as far as I can extrapolate from Thomas Petty, Lionel and various other news sources. We're going to get this out. We are winning. Russia probe protected by the MSN. The first thing that's going to submerge, because they can no longer suppress it, is the Uranium One deal between Hillary Clinton and the Russians, whereby she sold off 20% of the United States uranium, which is used in fissile technology, nuclear technology in essence. She gave their direct opposition, or their enemies as such, 20% of their entire stock of uranium, which is a big thing. That's being snowballed and stalwalled in courts for the years of coming, but Mueller and Comey can no longer suppress that court case from coming true. That's going to be the first on the radar. Boom. I'd also like to bring your attention to the fabulous 8 years of Obama's what would you say, scandal-free presidency. We have Benghazi, which again leads Hillary Clinton into that fiasco. These are all different layers that will go down, but Benghazi will raise it. The Fast and the Furious situation, where guns were run to the cartel and they became lost. A ICE or a serving officer in the United States immigration county was killed, and one of their weapons was used that was supposed to be sent off or GPS located. Big scandal. That's being snowballed into courts. That's going to arise up. That ties in directly with Obama. The WikiLeaks and the Seth Rich, God may Seth Rich rest in peace, a true patriot. The WikiLeaks was not based on a leak. The WikiLeaks was a breach, who most presume, and all points leading back, that the patriot Seth Rich breached the emails to what was going on. He had affiliations to Bernie Sanders, but he worked under Hillary Clinton as part of the DNC. And when he became aware that the Hillary Clinton campaign was subterfuging or working against Bernie Sanders, he became disillusioned and he breached the information. with the 33,000 emails. What that there and led, it made the Comey and the deep state actors, they got rattled because there were some inferences inside the emails that directed and spoke of accusations and exposed the cover-up. This is what drove everything else on towards Hillary and Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. I'll also direct your attention to John Podesta, Tony Podesta. John Podesta was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, who spoke at the end of her concession speech where she didn't turn up, and he came out on the stage. In case you're unaware of who he is, go look into him. He's the biggest, he did have the biggest political lobbyist firm, and they've disappeared without a trace. You got to ask yourself, why did they just shut up shop and they're gone and disappeared? That ties in with Haiti. Haiti is huge. Haiti is my bugbear. Haiti is my passion. I want to see these crimes, horrendous and horrific crimes, exposed. I'll leave you going to do that. But that's Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation, fraud foundation. So what are they all running for? Where is all this threat? Why are they running around? Well, primarily because first, as we already know, they never expected her to lose. So they bullheadedly charged into all these entrapments, the breakings of the law, the circumvention of the Constitution. They played FISA warrants, FISA judges, and used GCHQ to circumnavigate the FISA warrants. I listened to Lionel just say that there may not be treasonous prosecutions brought up to the players because the system was in play to allow them to bypass the information. So he would say, let's abolish the FISA courts. We need to get rid of the FISA courts. Or sorry, the American citizens need to consider and maybe look at removing the FISA court warrant system and take it out of the equation altogether. But essentially when President Trump signed the executive order on the 21st of the 12th, 2017, against human rights abuses, these human rights abuses will incorporate trafficking, I'm going to say it now, paedophilia, and also occultism. Entrapment, paedophilia, and occultism. These three tenets are inextricably linked to Haiti. Haiti will have its own offshoot prosecutions, but the main perpetrators were the ambassador, the special ambassador to Haiti, Bill Clinton, and one of the board members of the Hillary Clinton or the Clinton Fraud Foundation and Global Initiative, and all the other Ponzi schemes and pay-for-play organizations that these two have set up. But these three charges will be most prominent towards Haiti in regards to these two. Don't lose your eye off that plate. Remember, we have plates. Again, we're going to bring back to the memo. How was the memo? Why was the memo? What did Senator or Congressman Nunes' memo entail? Nunes's assessment was only 3 pages. It was only the first 3 pages. That's what all this kerfuffle is over. Of 2,000 documents in total. So you have 1,997 further documents to be exposed, which will expose all these onion peels in time, because it takes time for the judicial process to be processed. Mainstream media are covering the Russia probe. Mainstream media were blocking and obfuscating, and are still do, through Adam Schiff, trying to obfuscate and come up with a counter memo to kind of mix up the narrative and sidetrack people and keep them obfuscated. These are obfuscation tactics. Ignore it. The memo is real. The memo is where it's going to happen, and these are the first collapse of their internal power grab, that they have no longer the reins of power and are being exposed bigly. What the memo will also show is collusion. Collusion between the GCHQ, the British intelligence services, used by MI6 with GCHQ. This would lead on to any perpetrators of any usage between these organisations. That's why we suspected there would be military tribunals. And if anybody militarily is trying to prosecute it under these acts, that leads back to treason. That leads me back to 44. I now cannot say that I would like to see him hanged, but I know he will be exposed. I know his birth certificate will be exposed as being not produced, never fully verified. That's all to slowly trickle out. But let's concentrate on Carterpage. Carterpage was the nuclear weapon. These are all the backtracks of the interweb. What did they say? What a treacherous web we do weave when we set out to deceive. I mean, it's brilliant. And Betty actually gets excited because you do remember the days of Columbo and such, the great old shows, where characters were brought in and scenarios were created and scenes, and you extrapolated the information and you try to work out your own suspicions of who might have perpetrated quickly. So the industrious works of 45, along with Q Phenomena, which the Q Phenomena has only come online between all of us, 24/7 CBTS live stream. Them guys are, and those researchers and all those anons doing the citizen journalism, all the research necessary to tie in all these strings, because all of us on the YouTube spreading and disseminating this information are pushing this information into the public conscious in the Americas, in the United States, and it is helping. It's the pressure that was put upon all the congressmen and Republicans through the Twitter trends, through the Twitter, not Russian bots, but American patriots or citizens, putting pressure, making the phone calls, asking why are they not asking for the release of the menu. That's why the memo got released. Q is still posting online. I will go back in, we'll start researching, because there's obviously, this is only just the beginning and we need to tie up all the other ends. Dr. Jerome Corsi has his own YouTube stream. I see now, I subscribe to it there now, so it's better if he speaks directly and uninterrupted, I presume, because it was getting pretty crazy in there. He wasn't able to extrapolate all his code deciphers and get them out. The guy's under a lot of pressure, you know, under a lot of pressure. So I'll leave you along with this. 45 is a keck lord. I'm saying that because there's been some censorship from the YouTube, because this is now being tied into right-wing philosophies or right-wing narratives, and it's being used to censor and pressure people to stop them from presenting their own information. I'm going to finish off in, I did a fantastic interview with, I'm going to start bringing the focus back here to Dublin, Ireland. We've got a few bits and pieces going on. I asked my American audience to like, to share and subscribe and pass this on to any Irish friends or family that you might have, and get them engaged in what's going on back here too. We need your help. We know the American war, the big American second revolution is happening, and there's a huge cyber war going on at the moment, and patriots throughout the world are doing their bit to get their shoulder in behind and help out in any way that we can to helping your second revolution coming. But we also need a reciprocal bump coming back and starting to report on and get people's attention to what's going on here in Ireland, because our mainstream is sideballing, obfuscating. The same sort of tactics are being used right here, and what the Gran Torino purports to be and tries to aspire to be will be a news aggregation, an interview, basically whatever interviewing and whatever stuff I see I want to report on. So I ask you to pass this on to your Irish diaspora friends or yourself, even if you could just basically give it a like. I'll ask you to press the subscribe button, give us a subscription, press the bell for any live stream notifications or any new videos that are uploaded, and again share them to your friends. But if there's any Irish people across the pond, across the water, lend a hand and let's listen to what conversations need to be going on back here in Dublin. Like I said to you, I conducted a great interview with what would be considered a contrarian over here in Ireland. He is a long-standing journalist. He wrote for 12 years for the Irish Times, which is considered a very reputable news organisation over here. He wrote various books. You could look him up. I'll leave a link for his bio or his Wikipedia. Mr. John Waters, fascinating interview. Very low key, one angle budget, great conversation. I hope you enjoy that, and again I will ask you to share that and push that on as well, should you so choose to. Next thing that's coming down our stream of our phone of conscious, when I'll be bringing back the focus here, is the Irish referendum on the abortion. I'll go to both sides. I'll ask both sides, anyone that wants to conduct an interview, even after the John Waters interview. Both sides, both conversations will be facilitated on a Gran Torino if you choose so to come on and speak. It's not a problem. Couple of commenters and a couple of emails coming in about the US. Us is I took up jiu-jitsu last year. It's a way the players greet each other, and it's a sign of respect. It basically means respect. Us, respect. It's staying. It's always staying, and I open it up with that because I respect you all. And I want to try and help out this this information war that we're all currently partaking in. So thanks very much. I'm going to say it again. Ring the little blue bell. Press the subscribe button. Hit the like button. It all helps with the algorithms, and it'll help to lift this platform, and maybe we can get things going. Whoosh!